everyone. It is Tuesday, March 5th, 2024, and I call this meeting of the Senate Elections Committee to order. A quorum is present. We have 3 bills up today, and as is our custom, we will, after we hear from testifiers, I will ask if there are amendments to be offered, then we will go to member discussion and questions. If we don't finish by 5 p.m., we will postpone hearing the last bill on the agenda until a later date, which may make it difficult for it to make deadline. With that, we will begin with Senate File 4260. Senator Carlson, your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm presenting to you Senate File 4260, which is a bill to provide some more funding for the local administrators of our elections, to give them a little bit of help financially. And what we're doing is we're increasing the something called the voter fund, which I need to get you all tuned into the abbreviations here. That's the Voter Operations Technology and Election Resources Fund, in short called the Voter Fund. And what this does is it is distributed by registered voters to the counties, and they further distribute it to the local municipalities to run elections. As long as Minnesota has had elections, the local governments have administrated them. They print the ballots, they purchase, program, and maintain election equipment. They train and hire the election judges. They send out and process the absentee ballots, paying for postage both ways. They arrange for accessible polling places in each precinct, and they post the voting results, canvass the votes, and conduct the recounts. These are just a few of the many, many things behind the scenes, the roles that the local governments play to ensure that Minnesota continues to have the strongest election system in the country. The funds, but we're looking at $5 million of new funds plus $750,000 from an existing voter equipment grant account and another Dropbox account which has $1 million in it, and there hasn't been requests for using those funds. So in total, we're actually transferring $6.75 million into the voter fund. And at this point, I'm going to ask Mr. Erickson to explain the amendment in a bit more detail. I do have an author's amendment. Madam Chair, I don't know if you want us to adopt that first or wait until it's described.
Sure. Why don't we go ahead and address Senator Carlson's author's amendment. And Senator Carlson, you're asking, this is the first committee on the stop, and you would like this author's amendment put the bill in the order you'd like it in?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is an author's amendment, and it is the A1 amendment.
All right. The motion before us, Senator Carlson moves the A1 author's amendment to Senate File 4260. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? All right. That motion is adopted. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. There should be a spreadsheet in your packets that looks something like this, and I'll be walking through the various components here just because the actual movement of money is not as complex, but when it's layered on top of each other, it can get a little bit confusing. So Section 1 of the A1 is amending a 2021 session law that provided riders for 2 of the accounts that Senator Carlson described, the Vega, or the voting equipment grant account, and the Dropbox grant account that provided grants to local governments for certain purposes related to absentee ballot boxes. So what Section 1 is doing is really turning off the base for those appropriations by making them one time. So at the top of your spreadsheet, you'll see that that saves $1 million in fiscal 24 and then 1.75 in fiscal 25. The reason that $750,000 is not there in the first year is that money has actually already been transferred into a special revenue account. Moving into Section 2, Section 2 is doing a few things. There's a new rider at the end of that section on lines 2.9 to 2.13 that are specifying the amount for the voter account transfer, the Voting Operations Technology Election Resources Account transfer. Of these amounts, $1 million is coming from the Dropbox, and in the second year, $1 million from the Dropbox and $750,000 from the Vega accounts. And so those are being added in here. The additional amount is coming from a clarification that I'll describe in just a second from Section 3. In addition to those amounts, there's $5 million each year in new money. Finally, in Section 3, there's a change in the language that's going on here. So the clarification I sort of described before, previously in this section, it just looked like the Commissioner of MMB was transferring this, and it wasn't altogether clear who the responsible agency is. So we're moving that number up into the Secretary of State's rider to make it clear that this transfer exists with the Office of the Secretary of State. Instead, the transfer we're going to make here is just the $750,000 that has already been moved to the Vega account and is moving over to the voter account. So if anybody has questions on that spreadsheet, please let me know. But this does add up to then, as Senator Carlson described, $5 million each year in new money, $10 million for the biennium, and then the actual gain to the voter account in each year is $6.75 million.
All right, and I believe we do have testifiers on this bill, including our Secretary of State, Steve Simon. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members. Steve Simon, Minnesota Secretary of State. Happy Elections Day to everyone. It's ironic and I think fitting that I've been asked here to support Senator Carlson's bill on this day of all days. I want to thank him for his leadership, and I want to thank the committee for supporting the creation last year of the voter fund. It was really historic. It's the first time that we know of since statehood that any such fund has been created in Minnesota. And I think we all know that the business of putting on elections has gotten more complex, particularly at the local level. As I said, it's ironic that we're doing this today because today, local elected officials, election officials, I should say, all over the state, at the township level, at the city level, at the county level, they're working hard today, and they're going to be up late today because of the presidential nominating primary, and they're going to have to do the same thing 2 more times this year. They're going to have to do it in the August primary, and they're going to have to do it in November, of course, for the general election. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes energy, and it takes resources. So I often say that those in the counties, cities, and townships are our partners and our teammates. It really is a team sport to put on an election, and you're going to hear from them shortly. But I think this investment provides local governments with a dependable, ongoing funding stream to help assist with election-related costs. The fund and the increased resources proposed today will allow counties to save for anticipated technology investments and dedicate additional funds to election operations to ensure election processes that are fair, accurate, honest, and secure into the next generation. Like I said before, the funding passed last year was a great starting place. And last year, the office distributed $1.25 million to all 87 counties based on the formula in the statute. The formula distributes 20% of the funds to all 87 counties, so there's a floor. No county can get 0. Everyone gets at least that. The remaining 80% is allocated based on a proportion of registered voters. So to give you an idea of how the math worked out, a smaller county like Big Stone County, for example, received $3,761. A mid-sized county like Candy-Ojai County received $10,136, and a large county like Anoka County received $67,239. So from here, the counties keep 50% of the funds, so whatever that number was, so the $67,000 for Anoka, for example, the last figure I mentioned, they keep 50%. They distribute 25% of what they get to cities and townships, and the remaining 25% goes to the jurisdiction that administers absentee voting, which can be different depending on the county that you're in. So counties will report to our office at the end of this calendar year as to how they spent their funds for fiscal year 2024. That report that will then be shared with all of you, with all legislators, and with the public in early 2025, per your wishes in the statute. So I want to be clear that this funding does not and should not supplant local government's responsibilities to fund their elections. So this isn't a buyout. This was never intended to be, and I don't think you or any future legislature would ever say the state is taking over funding for local election administrators. And to be fair, that's not what they're asking for. I've never, in the time I've had this job, or before that, heard a local election administrator say, wouldn't it be great if the state paid for all elections? That's not what this is. But this is it's meant to be, and it is, and with your help will increasingly be a supplement, a much needed and very much appreciated supplement to the work that they do where costs are escalating, where pressures are higher than ever before. So I think it's important to just clarify that point. It's a way for us to show support for our elections administrators. So I hope you'll join me in continuing to support this innovative way to fund our election partners. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary Simon. All right, up next is Matt Hilgart. Go ahead and introduce yourself and go ahead and testify.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Matt Hilgart. I work for the Association of Minnesota Counties. AMC represents all of Minnesota's 87 counties. I want to thank Chair Carlson for introducing this bill and for staff's work on this. I want to also thank the Secretary of State, who throughout the last 2 years has been a fervent champion of trying to get resources to local government election administration, and we very much appreciate that. I also want to thank Senator and Tax Chair Ann Rest for her support of election funding proposals and trying to raise this and elevate this issue last year in the tax bill as well, of a needed resource and a state obligation to at least partially fund this mandate, especially with the expanded requests that you have all sent us, particularly in last year's elections omnibus bill. So as Secretary of State Steve Simon mentioned, this is for the first time in state history the state committing itself to funding part of the obligations and mandates that you have given local governments for administering elections. And we fervently believe that this is a bipartisan issue and an expectation that it shouldn't just be reliant on counties, townships, or not townships, townships, cities, school districts, tax capacity and ability to fund election administration, that no matter where you are around the state, how property tax rich or poor you may be, that there should be some state assistance to adequately fund this most serious responsibility of administering elections throughout the state. And while last year's amount was small, $1.25 million, please do not take that as a sign that we did not appreciate it. We certainly did. It was actually one of the most popular items that we talked about with the Minnesota Association of County Officers last year, because it was just so symbolic that the state was finally saying we have an obligation, we have a role to play. So we very much appreciate that. As Secretary of State Simon mentioned, there were a lot of people who wanted to sign up and testify today stating their support, but they will be up past midnight. A surprise, surprise, we actually received emails from some of them last night at 3:30 in the morning while they were preparing for today's election. And I think that's another reminder that these nonpartisan members of the public are doing a great public service, that it is a cost to our taxpayers to do this service, especially the presidential primary today, of which we're not totally 100% funded for, and that these acts like this are a great sign of local, state and local partnership. And so I'll close by saying thank you, thank you, thank you, and we appreciate Senator Carlson introducing this bill.
Thank you so much. And up next, we have Alex Hassel from League of Minnesota Cities.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Alex Hassel here on behalf of the League of Minnesota Cities. I don't want to be too duplicative in my remarks. Mr. Hilgart really covered a lot of the same things that our members are feeling about this bill, but just want to say thank you to Chair Carlson and members of the committee for putting forward this bill and the amendment to appropriate more funds to the voter account. If you recall last year, you know that we came to you all asking for some help in making sure we can fund the requirements set forth for our local jurisdictions for our elections administration. And we were greatly appreciative of the very historic and symbolic fund last year, the creation of the voter account, but are glad to see more resources allocated in a way that we know will trickle down to cities much more effectively than the current amount has been able to do so. From speaking with cities across the state, those that did receive more significant funds, they were able to use them for things like staffing more election judges, easing some of those costs of administering elections that build up when you have 3 in 1 year, and it's not an insignificant assistance, so we are greatly appreciative for that. So I'll just conclude with that and say thank you to the committee. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. All right, are there any amendments? Any questions or comments from members? Senator Anderson.
Madam Chair, did we adopt the A1?
We did.
All right. Wasn't paying attention, sorry.
Any questions or comments? All right, this bill is being laid over. Thank you so much, Senator Carlson, and we will move on to the next bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Next bill is 4432, Senator Westlin. When you're ready, you can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And Senator Westlin, I understand you have an author's amendment, an A3 author's amendment.
I do, Mr. Chair. So just as an initial comment, this is a bill that includes a number of updates to some election practices. It includes allowing absentee ballot witnessing to be done by any adult U.S. citizen, as opposed to the current requirement that they be a registered Minnesota voter. We do have folks who find themselves outside the state preparing their absentee ballots and not always able to identify certainly a Minnesota voter who can certify their absentee ballot. So that is one of the provisions in this bill. This bill also makes some changes regarding exit polling and making it clear that those who are providing exit polling will have to provide some sort of certification letter and an ID to the head judge of the polling place, indicating that they are credentialed from a legitimate news media source. They're allowed to be within 400 feet of a polling place, and again, this just adds some language prohibiting unlawful interference with voters. One of the provisions that we have in this bill actually was, that will be amended into the bill. Or sorry, no, is it in the main bill? I'm sorry, it's in the main bill. I apologize. Senator Rest had this traveling on its own, and it has been adopted into this, but it provides for absentee ballot applications for off-year elections so that people do not have to print off paper applications and will be able to do an online process in the same way that they do for other elections. In any event, Mr. Chair, I would like to offer the author's amendment. It is the A3 amendment to this bill.
Senator Westlin moves the A3 author's amendment to Senate File 4432. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The amendment is adopted.
So,
Senator Westlin.
thank you. And Ms. Stengel, could you do a quick walkthrough of this bill? I've hit some of the highlights, but if you can do the section by section with the amendment, I'd appreciate that.
Yes, Mr. Chair and members, I'll walk through the A3 amendment because it's a delete everything amendment. Section 1 on page 1 of the amendment is the provision that Senator Westlin described about absentee ballot applications. Now, a person under this section will be able to apply for an absentee ballot application online for all elections except for a town election in March. On page 2, there is a provision that Senator Westlin described that allows a person that is at least 18 years old and is a citizen of the U.S. to sign the eligibility certificate on an absentee envelope instead of being required to be a registered voter in Minnesota. On page 3, sections 3 and 4 are changes to the provisions related to exit polling. Section 3, you'll see some stricken language that appears now in paragraph A in section 4. Paragraphs B and C in section 4 are new language that require, as Senator Westlin described, the person to present photo ID to the head election judge upon arrival at the polling place, along with a letter of credential from the news media, and prohibits interference with people entering the polling place, and prevents providing the polls in a way that allows another person to see their response to the polls. Section 5 handles premature disclosure accounts of results, how to handle results from absentee ballot results. So after 3 o'clock on election day, absentee results may be added to the total counts. If there are additional absentee votes to be counted after that point in time, the county must report to the Secretary of State and post on the county websites the number of absentee ballots remaining to be processed. And after processing those, they must post how many were accepted and added to the totals and how many were rejected and therefore not counted. And then the final, not the final section, section 6, makes some changes to the county auditor and them remaining in their office after the election, and provides that the county auditor must remain in the office for 24 hours after voting hours have ended unless the county auditor adjourns absentee ballot counting. And then the final section, the repealer repeals a section related to the Hennepin County Board. They had a special provision related to vacancies on the Hennepin County Board, and that provision is being repealed, and now vacancies would be handled by the general law instead of their special law.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Some of the requests were brought to us by Hennepin County in particular, and I would direct your attention to Section 5. One of the issues that was raised was that in this last, as you know, we expanded the ability for folks to drop off an absentee ballot from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Election Day. And what Hennepin County raised for us is they only received an additional 6 ballots during that time period, but they had to delay their reporting. And so this will allow counties to include absentee ballots received up to 3 o'clock in an initial report. And again, so that won't delay the reporting based on what is potentially just a handful of absentee ballots that may take longer to process. And I think, Mr. Chair, I believe we have Kristen Cepeda on Zoom from Hennepin County Elections.
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Carlson and members of the committee.
Thank
My
you,
name
Ms.
is Kristen. Sorry.
Thank you. Just saying the same thing you were going to say, and that is identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Yes. My name is Kristen Cepeda, and I'm the operations manager for Hennepin County Elections. I would be joining you today in person, but as it's been mentioned, today is the presidential primary, so we are busy today here at Hennepin County administering that election. I'm testifying in support of Senate File 4432 and wanted to highlight a few sections that we support. First, Section 1, that will allow the online absentee ballot application to be open for local elections. Under the current law, it's only open for federal, state, and county elections, and during our local elections, many voters are frustrated that they cannot request their absentee ballot online. Second, we support Section 2 that will allow a witness of an absentee ballot to be any U.S. citizen who is 18 years of age or older, instead of the current requirement that the witness be a Minnesota voter. Many absentee voters are voting absentee because they are visiting a different state and often have difficulty finding a Minnesota voter to witness their ballot. Because of this, they need to find and pay for a notary. And sometimes in very remote areas, it's difficult to even find a notary. We also support sections 5 and 6, which make changes to the results reporting options. Last year, the legislature changed the absentee ballot drop-off deadline of 3 p.m. to be 8 p.m. on Election Day. Due to that change and Hennepin County's physical size and complexity, it will be difficult for us to get a ballot that's dropped off at a city absentee voting location, delivered to our centralized absentee ballot counters, accepted or rejected, and then if accepted, counted in time for timely reporting. So without this change, we fear that this would cause a significant delay in all results reporting in Hennepin County and have estimated that we may not be able to begin any results reporting until near midnight in November. This change would allow us to report the majority of votes and the number of remaining ballots we have left to count, and then add those votes to the totals in a supplemental update later in the evening. And finally, we support Section 7, which is a repeal to the Hennepin County specific statute, which governs the special elections of Hennepin County commissioners. The current special election timelines are out of date and call for a significantly shortened time period. So this spring, we have a special election for a county commissioner, and we're required to hold a primary just 2 weeks prior to the special general election. This shortened time period makes it really difficult, if not impossible, for a voter who's overseas to vote absentee in that special election. Also, this statute is in conflict with other election statutes, making the process and the timeline confusing for our voters. So this repeal would allow Hennepin County to hold special elections that follow the regular election statutes and timelines. We also support sections 3 and 4 on exit polling, but we'll let Senator Westlin or the Secretary of State's office answer any questions about that provision. I will also add that the Secretary of State's office is in support of this bill as amended. Thanks for your time today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
The testifiers? Are there any amendments? Any amendments? Senator Cran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When we move to the eligibility or certificate, when we talk about the signature, removing it from being a Minnesota eligible voter to 7018, I assume then is the penalty then just under the threat of perjury? That's the penalty for any individual, because we've got no real way to verify who they are as one, a legal U.S. citizen, and two, over 18. Is that
Senator West?
Would that be
Mr.
the
Chair, I guess I would defer to council, but we haven't done anything with the penalties, so I assume the penalty remains the same. We're just changing who can be a witness on the envelope. So I don't believe that we've changed any of the penalty provisions.
We'll get back to you in just a minute, Senator Cran.
okay? Move on.
And Senator Rest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to be assured that Section 1 is what reflects my Bill 3563, and I wouldn't describe it as an off-year election. It is city elections that are held regularly, and it's not, but what wasn't available, and I worked with a city council member in Golden Valley because they have odd year, I call them off year, but odd year elections of a process by which an absentee ballot could be obtained online like it can for even year elections. And, you know, if you just read this language, it doesn't speak to that, but that's what it does. And every time we looked for another iteration, it was kind of less and less language. So I really appreciate it being included in Senate File 4432. Thank you, Senator Westlin. And we couldn't find a way, which is why we have the language in 122 and 123. We couldn't find a way to do that for town elections in March. And so That is the exclusion that is this here, and this was suggested by the Secretary of State's office, that it just was not feasible to extend this to March elections in townships, so I don't want it to, those lines to be misconstrued about, we don't want them to have it, it's just that it's not going to work at this particular point. So, again, my Golden Valley City Council is very happy with this provision and it being included now in Senator Westlin's General Elections Administration bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Rest. Other questions, comments? Senator Limmer.
Thank you. Senator Westlin, if I could bring your attention to page 3, starting on lines 319, actually 321 is the point I want to make. Is it important to have a written questionnaire? And could a person stand with a clipboard and orally talk to someone and say, who did you vote for or why, and check the box? Why is a written questionnaire important and no other method?
Senator Westman.
Mr. Chair and Senator Limmer, so my understanding is that this definition is existing law, and I think based on case law. There's already a definition of exit polling that's actually being removed from subdivision 1 up above, and it's just being put into a new section. So that's the existing language, and we haven't changed it, we've just relocated it.
Mr. Chair,
Senator Limmer.
do you have any background on why the original language was put into state law?
Mr. Chair, Senator Limmer,
Senator
I
Weston.
do not.
Okay.
But perhaps we could look into why that's there. Again, we weren't changing it, just relocating it, so I don't know what the genesis is of that particular language.
I had another question on lines 23. By recognizing a news media as a source for a letter or credentials, does that mean we're prohibiting anyone else for conducting an exit poll? Let's say a blogger or maybe a student doing a student project. Why are we limiting it just to news media?
Mr.
Senator
Chair,
Weston.
Senator Limmer, there are actually some organizations, research groups that do exit polling, but they do it through the news media organization. And so I felt it was better to just limit it to the news media because that's how they're being credentialed presently. Those are generally the people who are doing this type of exit polling. And I think the concern is opening the door to anybody who shows up. You know, I could show up and say, I'd like to do an exit poll. And so I think by having people credentialed through news media is consistent kind of with what happens now, but also not turning it into a free-for-all.
Yeah. The reason I asked that question,
Senator
Mr.
Limmer.
Chair, is that
Thank you.
people aren't getting their news necessarily from news media sources anymore, and they get them from other sources. And I would tend to think that maybe our legislation should reflect the times we live in. I don't have an amendment at this time, but perhaps we can explore that option as this bill goes along. But I think other entities that are just as responsible could conduct a poll outside of an election area just as well as any news media.
Mr. Chair?
Senator Weston.
Senator Limmer, I'd love to continue that conversation with you. And again, I think one of the needle we're trying to thread is because they are allowed such close access to a polling place. I do think we want to try to protect that space. And who qualifies as news media these days that might be tricky also. But if you have some ideas, I'd certainly continue the conversation with you.
Thank you, Senator Limmer. And I'd like to call up the Secretary of State's office, Ms. Freeman, to give a little clarity to the historical reference we're talking about for the witnesses.
I'd like to phone a friend.
Thank you. Please identify yourself for the record and continue with your.
Thank you, Chair Carlson. Nicole Freeman, Office of the Secretary of State. Senator Limmer, to your question about, why the anonymous written questionnaire piece is in there. This language was put in, I believe, in 2009 or 2010, right after as a result of a court case. And that opinion urged the state of Minnesota to provide a clear direction and clear definition as to what exit polling was, and also to explicitly allow exit polling within that 100-foot buffer of the polling place. I believe the reasoning behind the written questionnaire is so that it could remain anonymous. You can imagine there are certain polling locations where, outside the door, there's, tons of space and tons of area, and where, people could be pulled off to the side to have a conversation that might be private. But then there are other locations where a conversation might not be private, if it is within another government building or something like that, where others might be milling around. So I believe that was the background of where the written piece came from.
The 100-foot limit, does that mean that persons who stay away 100 feet or more than 100 feet have the ability to do exit polling? Ms. Freeman.
Thank you, Chair Carlson. Yes, those outside of 100 feet of the building in which a polling place is located is sort of deemed public domain. And so, with anybody would be within their free speech rights to conduct an exit poll outside of that 100-foot buffer, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Grant.
If you could have counsel give us the answer for the question I had about the signature and the penalty. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There isn't a specific penalty provided in current law for a registered voter or in the A3 amendment for a person who's 18 or a citizen for incorrectly witnessing, but it does require a certification, which I do believe would then trigger the perjury statute. So it's the same under current law as it would be for the A3 amendment. So there is a penalty in place, and it's unchanged in the amendment.
Thank you. Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I might have missed the description, but Senator Westlin, could you tell us what we're repealing in this bill?
Mr. Chair and
Senator
Senator Limmer. So my understanding is that and this applies apparently to Hennepin County only, that because of the time frames, the primary special election and the primary for the special election and the special election are occurring within 2 weeks of each other. And so the request was to repeal this particular statute, and it also actually conflicts with other statutes. But the problem being that if someone happened to be voting absentee, the primary happens, and 2 weeks later is the regular election, and in that time frame they wouldn't be able to do it. But I know Ms. Cepeda is also online, and I think she can provide a more robust explanation if one is required. And I can try to. Oh, and the Secretary of State's office could do so as well.
Your call. Which one would you like to speak first?
Oh, let's go to
Okay.
Zoom.
Ms. Cepeda.
Yeah, so that section is specific to Hennepin County Commissioners, and it outlines a very shortened time period where the special election is held on a specific day, and the primary is required to be held 2 weeks beforehand, which doesn't fit with the current way we run elections now, specifically with a typical 46-day absentee voting period, which allows for overseas voters to vote, and a 2-week turnaround makes it very difficult to be able to administer that for those voters.
Thank you, Ms. Cepeda. Okay. And let's see. Do we have any other cleanups that we need to? Okay. Senator Westlin. Yep. Any final comments, Senator Westlin?
I have no final comments.
Okay. Senator Westlin moves Senate File 4432 as amended. Where does that go? Do we have that? And recommended to pass and referred to the Committee on State and Local Government and Veterans. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Senator Westlin, Senate File 4432 as amended is passed. Senator Westlin, you have the next bill as well.
I
And
do, Mr. Chair.
This one is Senate File 4431, political contributions. When you're ready, Senator Westlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And on this bill, we do have an A4 delete everything amendment. And then after that, I will offer the A5. The A5, just to preview that, is actually language that we are adding to make sure that the data remains private. But we'll need to deal with the A4 first, but I just want folks to know that that A4 or the A5 will have to do with the transmission of data between campaign finance and the Department of Revenue, and it is to protect that and make sure that remains private. So I'd like to move the A4 first, Mr.
Senator Westlin moves the A4 authors amendment, this being her first committee. It is, pardon me? Senator Westlin, I'm being requested to ask you if there is a question to line 413.
Oh, yes, sorry about that. I had the note. So on this A4 amendment, I just would like to make an oral amendment that line 4.13, which is the effective date, that will actually be deleted.
Okay. And that will be, see, we don't have to vote on that. So Senator Westlin renews her motion for the A4 amendment as a author's amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Just a question, please.
Senator Rest, do you have a question?
You incorporated deleting 4.13 into your delete all amendment. Is that what you said?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Your reference to line 4.13, you're deleting that as, you're incorporating that deletion as part of your A4s.
I am, as the
thank you.
A4.
That's all
Thank
I
you.
needed
Sorry
to
for
know.
the confusion.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Rest. This author's amendment does have that correction in it on the effective date. So all those in favor will vote on it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The A4 amendment as corrected is adopted. Senator Westlin.
And then, Mr. Chair, then I would just go ahead and move the A5 amendment. And again, this is the language that will provide that the data that is being exchanged between the Campaign Finance Board and the Department of Revenue, as well as all of the report information to the DOR would be deemed private. That means that this bill eventually will go next, I believe, to Judiciary before it makes its way to the Tax Committee. So, but in any event, we did realize that we did want to make that data private, and so we are adding this amendment.
Senator Westlin moves the A5 amendment, which is under the same rules as author's amendment. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Senator Westlin, the A5 amendment is adopted.
This is the best bill that we will hear in this committee all year. This is the PCR modernization bill, and I am sure every person sitting on this committee has had to deal with paper receipts, and we have had folks who have been kind enough to donate to our committees who say, can't we do this online? This bill is an opportunity for us to bring the PCR process into the modern age, and I am happy to say that we do have bipartisan support, and I'm very thankful that Senator Cran has co-authored this along with Senator Rest. So this is enabling legislation, and the process will be developed whereby an electronic receipt with an individual validation number will be provided to donors who will then have the opportunity to submit this to the Department of Revenue. As you know, at the current time, people have to hold all of their receipts and submit them at once. They can only do it one time. This would allow folks to submit more than one receipt to the Department of Revenue. They will track when people hit their cap. And so this will certainly streamline the process for folks. And I think, honestly, I think this will encourage people to actually participate in PCR. This is a great opportunity to promote small donor contributions to our campaigns and make it easier and more efficient for folks to be able to claim their refund. So again, I've been grateful for the opportunity to work with Senator Cran and Senator Rest and with our folks from the Department of Revenue and CFB to come up with a plan to bring this into the 21st century.
Thank you, Senator Westlin. Any amendments?
We have testifiers.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, we have a little bit different arrangement here, but we have some testifiers. Ms. Hartnett from Clean Elections, Minnesota. Please identify yourself for the record. Be sure to sign the list and proceed with your testimony.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is Mary Hartnett. I'm the Executive Director of Clean Elections Minnesota, a nonpartisan nonprofit organization that is working for a healthy democracy and inclusive democracy in Minnesota. We're here to testify in support of Senate File 4431, the PCR Modernization Act. I want to thank Senator Westlin for introducing this bill and for the bipartisan nature of it, and to the committee for giving us the time to testify today. The extensive amount of big and dark money flowing into elections is staggering and threatens our democracy. A Pew Research study from the fall of 2023 said Americans feel donors have too much, major donors have too much influence. Large majorities across party lines say that big campaign donors and special interests have too much influence in elections, and people in members-owned districts, by contrast, are widely viewed as having too little influence. This year, we worked with the We Choose Us coalition and interviewed some Minnesota voters across the state. They were concerned about money in politics and supported more public financing programs and updating the PCR. Public financing programs put more power into the hands of everyday voters. This bill will help in a small but important way to offset the imbalance by making the public financing program we have in Minnesota, the PCR, easier to use. Last year, there was unanimous support when Senator Rest introduced her bipartisan bill to increase the political contribution program from $50 to $75 for individuals and from $75 to $150 per household. During the deliberation of the bill, there was discussion about the difficulty of using the PCR's current paper program, and there seemed to be consensus from both sides that of the aisles that the process was at best clunky and needed to be made more user-friendly. The bill will make it easier for voters to use and make them more engaged in the political process. Increased participation and revenue from the PCR will make candidates less dependent on big donors and more accountable to voters. And increased revenue for campaigns will increase the number of candidates who participate in the program and agree to campaign spending limits. The Department of Revenue received about 45,000 PCR claims in 2022. The time that individual donors need to take out to manually fill out the paperwork, the time the CFB needs to record the information, and the time that the Department of Revenue needs to manually process the forms is a burden for everyone involved and a barrier to participation. This is a great bill, and we believe we need to provide more options for public financing programs. But modernizing the process is a great first step in encouraging participation in the program, empowering voters, and strengthening our democracy. Thank you.
Yeah. We have another testifier, but that testifier is not available, so we have Ms. Lily Sassy from We Choose Us. And I don't know if you're not online, you're right here, so thank you. So please identify yourself for the record and continue with your testimony.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I am Lily Sassy. I am here to read testimony on behalf of Hannah Merrill. She is a self-identified young person and resident of Senate District 59. Hannah says, "Good afternoon. I organize young people and renters in the metro area. There are many ways to participate in our electoral politics, but not all of us can afford to take a lot of time away from work or write max checks to candidates, and our democracy should represent those people too. For many young people, renters, people of color, people with disabilities, and low-income Minnesotans, we look at political contributions and the outcome those contributions can bring to elections as something that keeps us from having as much of a say in our democracy as others. The PCR chips away at this divide, making it so that more of us can have our share in that voice. I recently took part in a PCR training to learn about what it was and how it worked, and since then I've helped others in my life navigate the system. While my peers are excited by the existence of such a program, these conversations typically include a fair amount of confusion and frustration. What do you mean I have to print it out? Why can't I fill it out online? So I don't send it in yet? When do I send it? So I don't send this form to the candidate? Do I send this form with my taxes? Wait, a paper receipt? But I have an email from the candidate I donated to, etc. Access is about more than just specific dollar amounts. Modernization is access, commitment to streamlining, and ease of use is access. The current setup is cumbersome, and that can prevent those of us for whom it is most meaningful, like young people, people of color, and renters, from using this program to more fully participate in our democracy. In an era where we can pay our taxes, bank, and fill our prescriptions online, we should be able to file the PCR digitally. I firmly believe that all of us should be able to participate in all the facets of our democracy, no matter how much money we have in our bank account or if we have access to a printer. Intentional and thoughtful modernization of the PCR reflects those values, and I ask that the members of this committee support them as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sassy, and thank you for your identification of a certified young person's opinion. And that really helps us all understand how a young person approaches this process. Do we have any discussion? First of all, any amendments? No amendments? Okay, amendment, Senator?
No.
Okay, and discussion. And Senator Krantz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Westlin. I see you got a great co-author on this bill, along with Senator Russ, so I like it. Just so everybody knows, we proposed this, I first proposed it in 1997, that we automate and modernize the PCR program when I was with the Department of Revenue. And so members, so for this particular program, there's a couple things that it does that it will do kind of just in the operational side. Is one, the goals would be if we can go all paper, right? The goal would be to start out and remove, or instead go all electronic and not allow paper. But yet we're waiting for some final decisions. We got some information that we want about the age and I also just recently asked the department about the utilization of direct deposit. That will help us determine then what the cost is for the overall program. And then that will help us set and decide the frequency in which somebody could claim. You know, it's in the bill today, you see the floor is kind of set at $10 cumulative donations that they could request a PCR. The other pieces that we still have to think about are, you know, and we have to think about, see campaign finance here, we have to work out the technical side. It will likely be a daily update from campaign finance. So the way it would work is we get a donation, each entity will be incentivized by one being electronic, and I think the expediency of what it will offer is incentivized to key that information into campaign finance, and now you can do it remotely as well as, and multiple people can do it for you. And then that will issue a control number for each and every individual deposit. Then you have to deliver the receipt as you do today, but really what the driving piece of it is the control number, which will be associated with that particular dollar amount. The Department of Revenue will get an update and a feed from campaign finance, which would reflect the dollar amounts associated with each control number. The Department of Revenue then will bring up an online filing system where the individuals that made the donation, along with their control number, can key in their personal information, basic name, address, social security number, and then the control numbers, and they would have the ability to pre-populate the actual contribution amount, thus eliminating future errors and lowering our cost and streamlining the process. Collect the direct deposit information if they so choose to do electronic deposit, and Department of Revenue, I won't hold them accountable to it, but with that process, it will likely enable them within a few days to issue those refunds. So it also then brings us, I think, great discipline and incentives to key in all deposits as soon as possible to get that control number into the system, because a refund will not be able to be issued until that control number, one, is entered in the system, and two, 24 hours has elapsed. So it can then be validated by the Department of Revenue to close the entire cycle. So that's the goal. And I think one, right, we've all done paper receipts and all of those things, but we've had no closed loop, and the Department of Revenue has had no ability to verify those receipts because we don't send in that source document to campaign finance. So that's kind of the overall goal. Again, the couple things that we have to look for is we'll have to figure out, I don't know that we need enabling legislation for the daily data feed for campaign finance, but we might want to state that in an update as it moves along the path as we discover more information. So that's really what we discussed, and I think Department of Revenue has worked well. Campaign finance, everybody came together collectively pretty quickly, and that's kind of where we're at. So.
Thank you, Senator Curran, for that excellent description of the step-by-step process that needs to be and is being developed. I have Senator Marty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually had a lot of questions that Senator Curran answered most of, but I just wanted to be clear on this. In effect, when a candidate or a party receives a contribution, you in effect key that into campaign finance reporting, and they will send you an electronic number, not really a receipt, but a number that you pass on to that person, and they.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Curran.
Am I missing something?
Senator Marty, no, it will be a receipt, right? It'll be a receipt, but it will be issued by campaign finance, which will solidify that, one, we're all incentivized to get that entered in a timely manner. That doesn't likely happen in many cases today. The key will be, it will allow you to deliver the receipt in a couple forms. You could send it, mail it, or you can do it on the spot if you're at an event, and or send it electronically. as long as you have security now, or whatever you would use to secure that. But the key which will drive it to simplify for anybody claiming that is easy to fill out their personally identifying information. They control that. We don't have any involvement in it. And then for them, and the Department of Revenue agreed, the key in the control numbers, it could be one to many, right? Not to exceed the built-in thresholds that are there, and it will pre-populate the dollar amounts for them, thus eliminating practically every error besides if they were in some revenue recapture program. That would delay that. And I'm not even sure, maybe there's a statute that throws that outside that refund window. But then it would allow them to be able to quickly turn those things around and get them issued and create great incentives for everybody to make the transformation. We may have to help, right? There's some elderly, and we talked to somebody that gives $5. But I think in that arena, maybe that person can do, $5 is meaningful, but if we could turn it around in 3 days, or we get a track record of whatever that is, maybe that you can get the $10 donation, and we'll make that determination when we get all the costs from the Department of Revenue and kind of see what the age of the profile of the people who are currently using the system, and then it will allow us then to determine what those final thresholds and parameters are.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you, Senator Grant.
one more question for Senator Grant. In effect, then, if somebody's getting $10 at a time refunded and so on, if it's direct deposit, you're saying, because I'm getting the sense this saves money for Campaign Finance Board and Department of Revenue, but it actually would, if they're not mailing out the refund, direct deposit should actually save money.
Yeah, Mr.
Thank you,
Chair.
Senator Marty. Senator Grant.
Mr. Chair and Senator Marty, yeah, that's exactly it. So when we get the percentage, we'll see they're going to give us a cost, right? And then the cost, what it would be to have a dual paper system. But that's why we set that minimum threshold, the collective up to $10. We believe that that's where we'd like to stick. But I think they'll be able to accomplish it, and the true ACH debit is which direct deposit reflects is typically pennies, because they issue their own. So,
Thank you, Senator Grant. Senator Westlin, any explanations, comments
No.
that you need? Okay, Senator Rest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator Westlin, and thank you, Senator Coran, for going back in history as to when we first started thinking about this, and I certainly was one of those, and back in the late 90s, actually, when I was on the tax committee in the House. But what we ended up doing was scratching our heads because we didn't understand how we could technologically produce that kind of thread and chain that would be efficient, that would be self-monitoring, if you will, and costless. And I have indicated to this time, or now, that last year the tax committee received a PCR bill, and we funded it. Unfortunately, we weren't able to double it, but I think that now, even adding another $50 would end up being too expensive because more people are now taking advantage of it. So if we could have done it last year, it would have been cheaper because the participation in the PCR program had gone down. Now that the PCR has gone up, I think we're going to see additional participation, and the revenue estimate wouldn't be so little. But I have indicated to Senator Westlin, the appropriation blank, the appropriation is a blank, which is why if after going to judiciary for that one amendment, it coming to the tax committee, we will work on filling that in from whatever budget target that the taxes committee gets. And it actually may not be very much, because the savings are going to be, I think, are going to, after the initial setup. Now that will take some dollars, But after that, there will be savings that are realized both by the Campaign Finance Board and by the Department of Revenue. So I'm happy to make that offer as a co-author on the bill. And after it goes to judiciary, I hope that you will request that it come to taxes, and we can include it, and consider including it, but including it in the omnibus bill this session.
Thank you, Senator Rest. And I guess I need to comment on top of your comment that this is the way some things happen. They take a long time. They take a long time. And then someone comes in that's fresh-faced and new and gets it done. So this is a bipartisan, how can I say this, by age.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Grant.
The delay in 1997 was both of the parties. So we couldn't get them to move off the needle. We were ready at the Department of Revenue. So,
thank you, Senator Grant. And that isn't unusual.
And Mr. Chair,
Senator Grant.
at the age of 61, I appreciate anyone saying I'm fresh-faced.
Thank you, Senator Westlin. And we have a comment, Senator Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm imagining Senator Coran must have been sitting at his workstation with a stack of receipts trying to boot up his Windows 95 computer and going, got to get this online somehow. Anyways, I do have a couple quick questions. I've wanted a bill like this for a while. Glad to see that it's here. Couple things to clarify. Number one, Senator Westlin, is this going to completely replace the current paper system? I know I have some older donors. Is that still going to be an option for those who want it, or is this a complete replacement?
Mr. Chair.
Senator Westlin.
Senator Matthews, and I think as Senator Cran indicated, we're trying to actually get some data to try to sort out who that population might be before we make that final decision.
Okay.
But there was a discussion also about about being able to provide assistance either from the campaign or elsewhere to try to help people who might need assistance doing that online. But that's an additional question that we're trying to get some information specifically from the DOR.
Okay. Thank you,
Senator
Mr. Chair.
Matthews.
Yeah, that satisfies that for now, and appreciate that you're thinking through about that. My second question is about the A5 amendment that we adopted, and probably Senate Council would be best to answer. I know this is probably for judiciary, but I'll tee this up for Senator Limmer and Senator Westlin and whoever else is on judiciary. Since I used to chair civil law that did data privacy stuff, I'm curious with the A5 amendment that's making this private data, does this match what we do with the current system under current law, or what is the status currently?
Senator Westlin.
I think I don't know if council has a response to that, but I think right now, because of the way the system works, information that gets reported in your public campaign finance report only reports 200 or above. And so that information is publicly available. And I think the idea here is to make sure that everything that gets transferred from campaign finance over to the Department of Revenue maintains that privacy. And so anything under that $200 limit in particular, I believe I have that right. But perhaps council can elaborate.
Ms. Stengel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I can do my best, but as you said, Senator Matthews, this is going to judiciary next, so they can have a robust discussion. So there is new data that will be collected, and as such, it needed to be classified to make sure that it is protected as private data on individuals. If you're asking sort of what is the treatment of current data that is collected by the board and sort of how that's treated, you can see on the A4 amendment, In section 1, there's data privacy in the current law that talks about sort of what's currently private in the system, so you can see that there's a consistency there in what's private. There is some data that's held by the Campaign Finance Board, as Senator Westlin mentioned, that does become public at certain points. So it's sort of a grab bag of what's public and private. So if you have questions about what is public or private, I see Mr. Sigurdson in the audience, sorry. So he might be able to speak more about, if you're looking sort of across the board, what's public and private.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Stengel. Follow-up, Senator Matthews?
I think partially. I mean, the A4 is kind of what triggered the question, reading that current language has phrases like data is not government data, data is government data, and now this new language says data is going to be private data, and figuring out how all those interlap. So I know that's a judiciary question, but we did adopt the amendment in this committee, and I'm just trying to, maybe that's in order to trigger it needing to go to judiciary, but just trying to clear some of that up. Maybe Mr. Sigurdson has more.
Thank you, Senator Matthews. I think we'll talk, we'll have Senator Curran as co-sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator Matthews, the goal was to make sure that all public disclosure of that data followed campaign finance, and only through campaign finance. We've got a new file transfer, thus data going to the Department of Revenue. That data is secure, but to make it clear, no public disclosure under the $200 for any of the detail if somebody makes a request. But they're held to also higher data standards, but to close that loop, to make sure to provide that anonymity based on, and only have campaign finance drive the disclosure of those donations based on the current rules.
Thank you, Senator Grant. And we'll call a friend here, have Mr. Sigurdson give his input on this.
Thank you, Senator Carlson. Jeff Sigurdson of the Campaign Finance and Public Disclosure Board. Senator Matthews, the way the system works now that it's online, when we switched from a PC-based reporting system where the data was always on your PC to an online system where the data is being maintained on the board's database, we had to have this section that you see, 10802 subdivision 11B, which provides that all of that data, although typically data provided to a state agency is public data, it's not in this case until it's released in the form of a report. And then you link that with the existing statute of 10820, which says that the only information on a report is those contributions which are in aggregate over $200 during the calendar year. So we have, it's encrypted until it's released to us in a report. We can't see the data. But at that point, then we would have the right to any report generation. But since this is a new type of file transfer for the Department of Revenue, we had to have the specific language saying we also have the right to look at the data for that purpose.
Thank you, Mr. Sigurdson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That helps clear that up and gives context of why we have these clauses in here the way we do. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator Matthews. I'm actually kind of driven to perhaps ask Senator Curran if he would say a little bit more about the complications here and the different entities we're dealing with in the government here. We were talking about the Department of Revenue, we're talking about campaign finance, and we're transferring information back and forth, and how the difficulty you saw in pulling this together.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think actually this is a pretty simple process. But what it does do is it really brings it into a closed loop. Verified content, incentives to provide all entities who report and are eligible for PCR, that you have the incentive to enter that data as soon as possible. As much as the campaign finance rules state, they all weren't likely entered as timely as you'd like to be. If you're using the paper receipting process, all of those things, that receipting paper, that copy that you have never was sent in to validate against, right? No, there was a data shared with the Department of Revenue. Only that receipt was unverified. And so this literally closed the entire loop, and it makes it, I think, the system that we would all want it to be, and what I think people assumed it how it used to work or how it worked. So this authenticates everybody, puts all the control, gives us incentives, and I do think Senator Matthews about the, you know, the elderly voter. We're going to figure that out, and then we'll decide what that is. But at the same time, it'll be incentivized for the campaigns to streamline this process. We'll save some money. I think we'll get greater participation, and for me, this is what I've done for 41 years now. So,
Thank you, Senator Grant. Any other questions? Any? Senator Rest.
On behalf of elderly voters,
what's a threshold?
what is that? I resemble that.
Thank you, Senator Rest. I'm in there with you. Any other comments or questions? Senator Westlin, I believe you are going to move Senate File 4432 as amended. I'm sorry,
4431 as amended.
We had a little problem with numbers here. 4431 as amended, be recommended to pass and re-referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety.
That is my motion.
And the clerk will see. Oh, we don't have a call for a roll call. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you, members. Senate File 4431 is recommended to pass and referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety. Now, I'd like to make one public service announcement before we close today, and that is thank you for the speedy coverage of these bills today. But I also want to say to everyone who is here, there, and listening, that today is Election Day. Today is the primary election day, and I want everyone to be sure that they vote. And even if you don't want to vote, Senator Barty, you don't have to vote, but make sure that you are registered. Because as you heard in the very first bill, there are funds that are distributed based on the number of registered voters. So be sure that you register and give your own municipality those funds that are distributed based on you being registered. So thank you very much for coming. And with that, our business is finished and the committee is adjourned.